as youth and how we can deal with the victimization present in our society, especially in my generation. Um, because uh,
Correctness. ¿No?
in politics, well,
Sí, sí.
no, porque políticamente hablando, la victimización presente en nuestra sociedad, especialmente en el segmento más joven, es el arma principal de la izquierda y eso es preocupante, porque la gente suele actuar primero con los sentimientos y en las redes sociales, Instagram, Facebook, se piensa todo primero con lo ofensivo y lo sentimental, antes de racionalizar las cosas. Entonces, ¿cómo podemos nosotros combatir eso? ¿Cómo podemos combatir esa intolerancia a los hechos y a los argumentos? Porque yo, como estudiante de media, veo a diario que mi compañero antepone los sentimientos ante los hechos. Y uno cuando explica las cosas como son, suele ser tildado de racista, de fascista, que mente cuadrada y que prácticamente no tengo tolerancia, cuando los intolerantes son...
Yeah, it's to me deeply depressing that being a student has got so much tougher than it was. It really has. In the early 1980s at Oxford, I was part of a small minority of pro-Thatcher, anti-communist students, and we had great fun making mock of the left-wing majority. We had the time of our lives. They must have hated us, but they really couldn't get back at us. Because imagine, it was the early 1980s. There was no internet. Never mind Facebook and Twitter. We used to write letters to one another on paper. I'll show you the devices we used. These are called pens. And so it got to the point where there was this extreme communist whose name was Kong. And we made fun of his positions, and he would write very hostile things about us in the Magdalen College Library Suggestions book. That was how little power he had. Today you have to contend with Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I see students at Harvard, I've seen it in the past, intimidated into silence for fear that they will face these accusations, where if you say something that is somewhat to the right of center, you're a fascist. If you criticize President Obama, you must be a racist. If you say something in Edward Keynes, you must be homophobic. And it makes it extraordinarily difficult because your skin is at its thinnest when you're aged 18, 19, 20. When you are an undergraduate, that's when this stuff is like super thin. And you are bound to be really terrified of being called that kind of stuff online and seeing it retweeted and reposted and liked. I can barely imagine how I would have coped if that stuff had been done to me when I was 19. What can we do? Well, I learned a while back never to read the comments after the articles that I published. So if you write a newspaper article, there's a comment section. Never read that. It turns out that about 5% of readers write 98% of the comments, and they're all crazy. And so if you start reading the comments, your self-esteem will collapse. You'll never write another piece. So stop reading the comments. And the same applies here. Although your skin is thin, you need to say to yourself, these are empty words, and a significant percentage of that online antipathy is not human activity at all. I discovered, and I haven't revealed this to the world, but I'll do it now.
Please go ahead.
That 38% of my Twitter followers are in fact bots. It's kind of crushing. Only 9% of my wife's are bots. I have way more Russian interest in what I write than she does. So it's important to realize that social media are not really social, and that the people who are liking and disliking you are not necessarily people. And in the end, you need to somewhat screen out this abuse and recognize that it is just the latest form of psychological warfare that is intended to shut you up. Now, it's not the Cultural Revolution. It's not as bad as it was on the campuses in China in the late 1960s, so let's not get panic-stricken. But I think we all need, collectively, to be more skeptical about social media and thicker-skinned when we come under attack. I don't think we should fight fire with fire. Let me explain why. There was a time when I would fight back on Twitter, and it was particularly strongly incentivized when my wife was under attack. When she published her most recent book, Heretic: Why Islam Needs a Reformation Now, the attacks were relentless, and they came from some particularly odious characters in cyberspace. And I responded to every single one. I was like the guy in the pub in Glasgow who's just like, come on then, come on. And I would spend days rebutting Glenn Greenwald's scuzzy tweets. And then I realized this was exactly what they wanted me to do. My retaliation was like fuel on their fire. So in some ways, I think we have to step out of this jungle and simply decline to fight this kind of a war. We mustn't allow ourselves to be dragged down to the level of the Russian bots and their human imitators. We really must pull back, put those devices to one side, and pick up books.